after the drone attack carried out by Ukraine in the Ukraine-Russia war, an operation that made headlines around the world and resulted in the destruction of at least 41 Russian heavy bombers. Critical developments have begun to unfold. As is known, the drone attacks implemented on June 1st were planned by Ukrainian intelligence for as long as 18 months, and they destroyed at least 41 heavy bombers at Russian air bases in the Murmansk, Ryazan, Irkutsk, and Ivanovo regions. The operation was launched precisely while peace talks were ongoing in Istanbul, with Turkey acting as a mediator. With this attack, Ukraine's message to Russia was essentially, "I can strike you wherever and whenever I want. I can weaken your military power. In these times of sanctions against you, you will suffer tactically, logistically, and psychologically." We witnessed that in operations carried out 4,000 kilometers away. The heavy bombers were destroyed to the extent that they can no longer be used in the war. Russia did not deny the attack. The regional governor, Igor Kobzev, later confirmed that a military unit in the village of Sredny was attacked by an unmanned aerial vehicle, but did not provide any further details. The governor of the Irkutsk region, Igor Kobzev, confirmed that there was an attack on a military unit in the region by sharing on his social media account a video showing kamikaze drones flying and thick smoke rising. Kobzev stated that the number of UAVs has not yet been counted, security forces were dispatched to the scene, and an emergency operations center was established regarding the incident. The governor of the Ryazan region, Pavel Malkov, emphasized in a statement on his social media account that Ukraine carried out an attack on the region on Children's Day. According to initial reports, there were no casualties, but the fallen UAVs caused damage, and damage assessment efforts are ongoing. Following the raid, statements from the Russian press and prominent Russian politicians suggest that Russia is considering an extreme response after Ukraine's attacks on Moscow air bases. Russian newspapers and military bloggers are discussing the possibility that Russia may use nuclear weapons to strike Ukraine, following Kyiv's ruthless attacks on Vladimir Putin's air bases. The country is reeling after Ukrainian drones reportedly destroyed strategic bombers worth $5 billion. An event that some pro-Kremlin commentators have described as Russia's Pearl Harbor. The attacks destroyed at least 41 aircraft at airbases located as far away as the Arctic and Siberia. The strikes represent a stunning Russian intelligence failure and triggered a fierce response within the Kremlin, with reports claiming that an enraged Putin is seeking to punish those responsible for the disaster. Vladimir Oseshkin, a well-known Kremlin critic with strong connections inside Russia's security services, claimed that the Russian president is on a warpath. Let's underline this. Putin is saying the war will continue. According to breaking news from the Russian press, following the attack, Putin is convening an emergency meeting of the Security Council. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, after the Russia-Ukraine summit held in Istanbul, stated that their goal is to organize a peace summit where Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and U.S. President Donald Trump would all be present. Erdogan said, "Let me also meet with them at this gathering so we can turn Istanbul into a center of peace." In response to this call made by the United States, it is reported that if Putin and Zelensky agree to participate, Trump is also open to attending the meeting. From the very beginning, Trump's desire has been a leaders' summit attended by both Putin and Zelensky in order to achieve peace. So, what conditions is Russia putting forward in these peace talks? Crimea, Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Kherson regions must be internationally recognized as part of Russia, and the Ukrainian armed forces must fully withdraw from these regions. After Russia hands over the remains of 6,000 fallen soldiers to the Ukrainian side, a ceasefire agreement including the date for the signing of the final deal must be signed. A 30-day ceasefire will be declared, followed by elections, then the formation of state institutions on Ukrainian territory, and finally the agreement will be signed. Russia's demands on the table. Critical conditions in the Ukraine war. Hello, friends. Today I'm sharing with you the Russian demands that have come up during the Russia-Ukraine talks. Demands the whole world is watching with bated breath. Did you hear? Russia wants a guarantee of neutrality from Ukraine. That means Kyiv must not join any military alliance, especially NATO. Is that all? Not even close. Russia also wants to ban foreign countries from establishing military bases or conducting military exercises on Ukrainian territory. Another critical point: Ukraine must not acquire nuclear weapons, and its military size must be limited. In short, Russia is demanding that Kyiv's military power be controlled. On the economic front, things get even more interesting. Moscow demands the immediate lifting of all economic sanctions imposed on it. Additionally, there's a clause for mutual waiver of compensation claims related to war damages. In other words, no side will pay the other war reparations. Domestic policy demands are also notable. Russia is also demanding that Russian speakers in Ukraine be granted the right to education and cultural rights in their native language. So what do these demands mean? Russia essentially wants to turn Ukraine into a neutral buffer zone and sever its military ties with the West. However, if Kyiv agrees to these conditions, it could seriously compromise its independent policies. Breaking news: Ukraine has not yet given an official response to these demands. The Kremlin stated, "Our conditions are clear. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon for more details." The peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine must be approved by a legally binding decision of the UN Security Council. Only then can it be ratified, come into effect, and be implemented. As you can see, many of the listed items seem almost impossible for Ukraine to accept. Ukraine, on the other hand, insists that the peace talks must be unconditional and that Russia must withdraw from the occupied territories. In light of the statements made so far, looking at the demands of the parties involved in the ongoing peace talks in Turkey, it gives the impression that no peace will emerge from the next round of negotiations. What does this mean? If there is no peace, it means the world is rapidly heading toward World War III. The world is heading for a catastrophe. There is only one factor that could change this grim course. The only factor that can save the world. And that is none other than U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump is the only person who can end World War III before it even begins. The future of the world is in his hands. According to statements, White House spokeswoman Karoline Leavitt said that President Donald Trump wants Russia and Ukraine to sit at the same table and that the war must come to an end. When asked about her reaction to Ukraine's drone attack on Russia, Leavitt responded, "This war needs to end. It has been brutal for both sides, and far too many lives have been lost. The president wants to see this war end at the negotiating table." Putin, who is losing a battalion of soldiers every day, struggling to replace them, and whose pride has been wounded after losing many strategic bombers in drone attacks. Will he attend the peace talks in Turkey? We believe he will. However, before the peace talks, Putin is expected to carry out a high-impact military operation to restore his wounded pride and strengthen his position. He will want to enter the peace summit with a stronger hand. At the negotiation table, we expect that both sides will make certain concessions, especially under the pressure from Trump and Erdogan, and that this will lead to a lasting peace agreement. We also hope that this good news will be announced to the world by Donald Trump himself.